Whoa, TalkLinked. Didn't see that one coming.
No?
Especially with you here again.
That's the biggest surprise.
But the topic for this video is John Deere tractors and them actually getting a jailbreak thanks to a hacker that was shown off at DefCon. Let me show you. Boom. Boom.
This is what I've always wanted, is farmers playing video games out on the field.
Well, but that's why this is kind of very interesting, because we've seen this has been sort of like a meme, like Doom, someone installs Doom on a pregnancy test, someone installs Doom on a fridge.
That's impressive.
On like a tiny little Lego brick or whatever. And so I think that there was a tendency for some outlets. This was interesting because we covered in TalkLinked the other day. Some outlets reported on this and they were just like, whoa, Doom, another wacky guy installed Doom on a funny thing. Then there were other outlets like Ars Technica reposting a Wired article and others that were able to see this for what it is, which is a significant moment in the right to repair issue. And the reason why I brought you on, Jonathan.
Why?
Because you're an Apple guy.
Yeah.
And Apple loves locking down hardware in the same way that John Deere has.
Yeah.
But there's an argument to be made for John Deere. But you would even say
you
that
think
maybe
I'm going to make that argument?
Well, I don't know.
Probably not.
But see, this is why I asked you before we started recording. I was like, how do you feel about iPhones and jailbreaking?
Yeah.
And you were like, what did you...
I did attempt to jailbreak an iPhone once in my life.
Yes.
This was to get iOS 6 on my iPhone 5.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just way more work than it was worth. Like, you could talk about the way it's locked down. Like, it'd be really nice to be able to install an older version of an OS on an iPhone, because you can do that on a Mac if the Mac did support that version.
You can do that on basically every other type of hardware.
So, but you can't do it on an iPhone because they sign it with their servers, and so if you try to install an old version, it just won't work. So like I was like just trying to get it to work, and it still was like. It was like a temporary fix in that if I rebooted the iPhone, it would just go back to.
Oh, yeah, those are things.
So like they make it hard. They make it really hard, and for someone like me, not worth it.
Right.
But because I'm glad it's worth it for other people. I see. I appreciate the work other people have done to do it because it's. I think it shows vulnerabilities that can get fixed. It allows for a little bit of invention. I think especially in the early days of the iPhone, you saw a lot of ideas and features that people wrote for jailbroken iPhones actually trickle into iOS. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not against it in like a really military way. You're not against it from the perspective of like people should have a right to do this, of course. Yeah, like you're not like, oh, I should be out there fighting right to repair legislation. Oh, like no. But I'm not a lobbyist.
But I think I thought it would be interesting. The only
people who do that get paid to.
That's true. I mean, like
they get paid handsomely.
And it's been interesting to see the right to repair movement because I can't think of anyone who like any real people other than these like corporate lobbyists who would actually oppose it. Yeah. Like no. We trust us. We don't know what we're doing. But like, it's funny because you see the like the things that these lobbyists say, and they're like, it's less about, oh, people can't be trusted to repair their things. It's more about like if you enact these legislations that will give consumers more rights to repair their own stuff without having to deal with like authorized services or whatever. Mm-hmm. That will inhibit the ability of companies like Apple or John Deere or whatever to, have tight security and like protect against hackers and quickly execute repair measures that they need to do or like whatever. So it's like that, that's fair. Yeah. There's a perspective there. Yeah. But it's, when you actually talk to people on the ground, you see that it's basically only the perspective of these lobbyists.
Well, I mean, as I was thinking about where this topic could go in the half hour I had to prepare.
You had more because it took me almost half an hour to set up.
I was thinking about my experience recently with the Apple Self-Serve Repair Program, which we did a video on Mac Address. Go check it out. It's very good. Surprise ending. You haven't watched it?
When did that come out?
a couple weeks ago. And anyway, so
I was on vacation a couple weeks ago, and you knew that.
But you never subscribed to Mac Address, clearly. So
I'm subscribed.
Suffice to say,
on TalkLinked.
One of the most annoying. There's a lot of annoying things about it. Like, it's great you can buy the tools to fix the iPhone, or you can rent the tools, and like they're really cool tools, and they do the job, and they help you open up your iPhone safely and easily and properly. But they have a system configuration system where if you replace the screen or you replace the battery or and a couple of other parts, you have to go through this rigmarole to tell the phone that this is an official screen.
Right.
And it's so annoying. I took like multiple chat sessions, and I mean, I think we may have broken the volume button on the phone, so I couldn't actually go into diagnostics mode, blah, 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 blah. But we got it to work. But I was just thinking about, like, why does it have to be that way? Why can't it just be as simple as just transparency of the display manufacturer that's found in the Abouts page? Like, if you were to get a screen on your old desktop computer, you would know that you bought a ViewSonic and it was a piece of crap.
And then you deal with the monitor
and it's just like literally in front of you. Yeah.
Right.
So why can't that be done on a phone? Like, what's...
Well, you know, I exactly. That's the question, right? And I feel like iFixit has done a great job of working with, I think they've worked with Google and Samsung, Microsoft, maybe some other people as well. Did they? I think there was some sort of partnership with Apple as well.
Yeah, it could be that, like, iFixit consulted Apple. Apple's like, what do you think we should do? And iFixit said, do all these things. And Apple's like,
I think it was more that, where, you know, Apple kind of sees the winds blowing here, where, this right to repair thing is important. You know, the U.S. President Biden did an executive order last year in 2021.
Yeah.
We talked about this a little bit before the show. That wasn't like legislation. That's just him saying, hey, regulatory people, let's get some right to repair going here.
I mean, well, in this case, right to repair specifically was for agriculture in that executive order, and I just have the fact sheet here. It says, encourages the FTC to limit powerful equipment manufacturers from restricting people's ability to use independent repair shops or do DIY repairs, such as when tractor companies block farmers from repairing their own tractors.
I think it said like that was the example given, but I think that he also talked about electronics in a different thing maybe. But anyways, regardless, what he said applies broadly to, you know, just...
It should apply broadly.
Yeah. Companies who do these kind of things. So back to the hacker installing Doom on a tractor.
Yes, I derailed.
Well, no, I think that's all part of the conversation. But I think the reason why this is so interesting and why some people were just kind of like... some people saw it as not just another, like, wacky installing Doom on something weird thing, is because... John Deere has been one of the, you know, as you said, they were basically not named by name, or were they named by name in the executive order? But they were referred to.
Yeah. It says large agricultural manufacturers.
Right. So this has been a controversy for a while. And the best argument that I saw against giving regular people access to these systems is that instead of, like, it just being an iPhone or something, what you're dealing with is, you know, large, powerful farming equipment with motorized spiky bits on them, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't own a farm. I don't go on farms. I did when I was a child.
Oh, now I got another topic journey. I was like, because the other
wait. Let me finish my point.
Sorry.
So it's large, powerful farming equipment, and I think I found this post back in 2017 because I think there was sort of.
Oh, that's where this is from. I thought this was recent.
Yeah, there was a burst of activity talking about this stuff in 2017. There's also a Vice article talking about the black market of John Deere tractor hacking, where, you know, people took this into their own hands, and maybe they weren't able to, like, fully jailbreak or fully, like, get full access to it as it appears that this sick codes hacker has. But back in 2017 they were talking about it, and this guy posted on Hacker News Y Combinator. Actually, I don't entirely know how this site works. Anyways, this guy says that he used to work for John Deere and he worked on software.
Yeah.
And that was his argument essentially. That, like, listen, guys,
it's really dangerous.
These are not riding lawnmowers. They are 30-ton combines and 20-ton tractors tilling fields with massive horsepower behind them. They have real potential to end people's lives in the event of failure, and these tractors do, in testing, fail in spectacular ways. If a team of 100 engineers struggle with their code base internally, Joe Farmer, oh, that's rude, isn't going to have a effing clue how to repair their software correctly. Now, this was great because I was like, okay, you know what? That's a fair point.
Yeah.
You don't want people killing themselves.
Yeah.
With Apple, it's like, psh, what are you scared of? What are we scared of? People like letting a virus onto their iPhone and whoopsies.
I mean,
but this is like,
comes all the time.
At least this argument kind of makes a play for it's like, listen, you're not playing around with toys. These are important tools.
See, the thing about computers is
what?
They're really complicated machines.
The thing about computers is binary code.
So I mean, I'm a bit of a car guy, so you see this sort of thing.
You're a car guy.
I am a car guy.
I don't get it, but continue.
And so you see this sort of thing with computers and cars, and like in the early days of computation in cars, it was like engine management systems. They were very closed systems. They just figured out how to manage the car's ignition and whatever.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then you start seeing the tech industries move fast and break things culture sort of creep in.
Oh,
you know what you really want is over-the-air updates.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just like, I don't know about that. And like this, and in the case of like John Deere tractors like this, like, why do we need all these firmware updates? And why do you need to only go to the dealer for that?
Yeah.
You know, like,
right.
It just, I don't know.
So you're somebody who's more into the like analog type of car situation? Like
I know.
You don't like that they're basically turning cars into like fancy, cutting edge tech products.
No, I don't like the culture of Silicon Valley, creeping it, the bad aspects of the culture of Silicon Valley creeping its way into the way we interact.
You would prefer
with cars.
You'd prefer cars to be a bit more of like a known.
I don't
phenomenon?
I don't want touchscreens.
Actually, that's funny because I just saw an article today talking about some study. I just scrolled past it.
Yeah, I saw it. Yes,
but it was like, people prefer or touchscreens
they're horrible.
Basically, objectively worse than buttons.
Oh yeah, unbelievably
in a car.
so. Right. Yeah. So then the question is like, okay, so the way Silicon Valley works and the way that structure is and how they interact with software and hardware, blah blah blah, and that going into agriculture equipment, like that's probably not a good thing.
Right.
Right. But you can see these companies like John Deere taking advantage of the structure. For instance, like the Digital Millennium Copyright Act and that sort of thing. And I don't blame them for doing it.
I see what you're saying.
And then there's like greater consequences to that because it's not just a phone.
This is like, okay, there is this argument that tractors are dangerous and you shouldn't have the ability there anyways.
Absolutely, but because of that, why they shouldn't have they should be. They don't need to, like, I don't know what's the updates for.
The updates are so that you can till
2%
more crop. I mean, honestly, but like if that was an update, I don't know if that's a real update, but because we just made it up just here. But if that was a thing that happened, I can see farmers wanting that because they're like, wait, if I spend 2% less time doing a thing that usually takes me hours to do, that I definitely want that.
But like if you have some sort of like, whatever tilling management system, like, okay, I have another thought. So when I was researching the iPad Pro and I was scratching my head as to like, what's the professional use of this device?
Yeah.
I was talking to Colin actually, but he kind of showed me this farmer who uploaded videos about like how he farms, and he has an iPad, and it was like really cool how all this technology is working together, where he showed the iPad screen and it was basically showing exactly how he was planting the seeds on the field, and you could like see it, and it, like, these things run semi-autonomously as well. Like he just sits there and it's just going. Well, and you can see like, and you can see where the seeds go in and what seeds didn't go in, and so he could go back and check, and like there's like a whole mapping system, and so like it's really
you're
cool.
Playing Harvest Moon.
Totally. But like a really complicated advanced version of that in the real world. And like, so there's like really cool stuff. There's really cool technology there, which is really great. And I guess there is a difficulty in terms of how does it all interact with each other. But I don't know. Like,
that's a use case. That's a positive.
That is a positive use case, but does it need to be locked down completely? Like,
exactly. So like, after all, this guy wrote this post. He's like, "Oh, you don't want to deal with it. It's too dangerous. So it should be locked down." And honestly, the first reply posted on April 10th, 2017, by Plink Plonk, a hero in the industry.
Have you heard of him before?
No.
You've seen all his posts?
No, but I like his name. Link blog.
See where else
he's basically like, listen, that's fine, but the fact that things are locked down now means that that farmers, when things happen and they need to fix their stuff, they can only go to these authorized guys, and it's not these authorized dealers, and it's not like your iPhone where you could just like book a Genius appointment and use your laptop in the meantime, or use your old phone or whatever, and then like just pop into the Apple store and give it to the person and they fix it immediately. This is a situation where your farming equipment has broken down. It's sitting in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
It costs apparently hundreds of dollars just to get a service call in some cases, and then you're sitting there waiting for the guy to show up to take a look at it, because only that person has the like software capable to get into the nitty gritty with it and try and fix the issue. And that's just, honestly, as soon as I read that, I was like, well, okay, that blows up the danger argument then.
Yeah,
because
now the danger's crops going bad.
Yeah. And then the other side of that is that I've seen lots of people saying, listen, farmers have been dealing with dangerous farm equipment for hundreds, thousands, whatever, I don't know, of years, centuries at the very least.
Yeah.
It's definitely longer than that.
Yeah.
That humans have been around, I'd say.
But also, like, you can develop and design fail-safes. And you can also, develop and design ways to make sure that simple repairs are manageable.
I feel like printers come to mind. Where a lot of the time, instead of either repairing their printer or taking it somewhere to repair, people just buy a new printer when their ink runs out. Now there are ways to get around this. Obviously, people have fill your own ink cartridges, and some companies are better than others. But it's not just Apple. But I think Apple is such an interesting example because they are in the news a lot. We talk about them on our channels.
Well, they're just
a lot.
The biggest company.
Yeah, and I think that they've put forward the argument again and again that we know what's safe and good to run on our hardware, and you don't. And so you need to rely on us.
Apple has really high standards for the products they want to make, and they believe that by controlling the whole aspect of it, they can do a better job. And there have been examples where that has worked, and there's been examples where that hasn't worked. And so, for instance, they have really high standards for the displays that are installed on iPhones. And I can tell if somebody's had their screen repaired with the less quality screen. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, this dates back years. Like somebody with an iPhone 4, I remember looking at the screen, I'm like, you got your screen repaired. I'm like, what? How'd you know? So
you can eyeball that.
You can eyeball it.
Dang.
That's how good the OEM screens are, right? But on the flip side, if someone who doesn't care about that wants to spend less to fix their screen because their phone's 4 years old and they just want to get another year or two out of it, I don't see why that should be prevented.
It's interesting. I feel like we're coming into this era in the sort of modern technological internet age where there was this golden era of the internet is this. We kind of talked about this on, we did Hackers on They're Just Movies this week with Luke. And we talked about how, when the internet was first kind of arriving, everyone was like, wow, it's this new technology. It's gonna level the playing field. It's going to make it so that people aren't, discriminated against based on things like race, ethnicity, age, whatever, skin color, blah, blah, blah.
Because you can choose it in the metaverse.
Yeah, well, because instead of being yourself on the internet, you can be anyone.
That's
you
right,
can choose a handle and be anonymous and blah, blah, blah. And back then, without our knowledge of today, they were like, yeah, this is going to lead to a utopia. And then we kind of went through this period of cynicism, which we still are in. I think there's a lot of nihilism
I feel like
and
it's only
cynicism.
just starting.
It is. Because the internet has been, instead of being this big open play field, it's been splintered into these corporatized, mini internets that interact with each other, and and the metaverse is the next thing there. But
is it?
I'm saying in other ways, like with Right to Repair, I think that there's we're going past the phase where companies have as you said, used other types of laws and other ways of thinking, like the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, DMCA. And they're like, hey, wait, if this is a precedent, we can use that to lock down our hardware over here. And we're coming past that a little bit now where I think the people are seeing this, and we're seeing legislation come up in America and Canada and other places that are like, actually, now we kind of understand how this is working and we understand what these companies are doing.
That's not what we meant.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So now it's like, maybe we can start to create some sort of like common sense legislation where it's like, we've lost something in the digitization of this stuff. Yeah. Like there was this scenario where farmers could go and like fix their own equipment because it was analog.
Yeah.
And then we tried to digitize everything and put pooters and everything.
Yeah.
And we realized, wait a second, you can't turn everything into a computer and have it locked down in the same way that like people used to lock down PC systems.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now we're coming out the other side. This is hopeful.
Well, hopefully.
Well, it seems like we are. I mean,
there's been good movement. It's very slow, very brittle. But
very brittle.
It is. Yeah, it's just like you're like, is this gonna go the way it works? It's gonna be lots of arguments. And so I'm excited at the prospect, but like unless there's like real legislative change, if we go through all those court cases and blah 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 blah, it's gonna take forever. And I guess it's probably gonna take more time too, considering like changes in the demographics of those elected leaders who write the laws, and how their understandings of how things work go, and then their philosophies behind that. But we've just lived in, and that techno optimism from the early days of the internet and even computing was sort of taken advantage of.
It was
to our detriment.
Those dang corpo rats.
We all signed up for it. It was like, oh wow, this is so exciting. It's all gonna be really great. And then you're like, wait a minute, what's going on?
Yeah. And before you know
and then you couldn't do anything about it.
Your metaverse citizen number 2356.
You were Facebook user, whatever. Like it was ready back then.
Yeah.
It was. So it's just taking a long time.
Well,
I guess
it is.
For people to be like, oh, maybe this does matter.
But I see some hope. This jailbreak for John Deere equipment comes after John Deere had already said, like they've been under pressure for a long time. And I think they had already said, I think it said somewhere that John Deere had like pledged to make things easier.
Yeah, sure.
Where was it? It's in here somewhere.
Great.
Oh, facing mounting pressure, John Deere announced in March that it would make more of its repair software available to equipment owners. The company also said at the time they will release an enhanced customer solution next year. So it's like even John Deere, who is like the worst example of this stuff, has seen this pressure and has relented a little bit, but they're not moving fast enough. And this is what's so great about hacking. This is another thing we talked about on the podcast. They're Just Movies. Subscribe today, about hacking as a thing. I always thought of hackers as like bad. Obviously there are white hat hackers and black hat and red hat and all these different types of hackers. But for the most part, when you say the word hackers, most people in the world I think would think of like evil, trying to steal money and stuff. It is, but like again, back in the 90s, hacking was this like cool new thing that if you were keeping up with the developments in technology and stuff, you could do things that other people couldn't do. Yeah. And it just came down to what kind of a person you were. Were you a bad person or were you a good person and like trying to do this type of stuff, jailbreaking equipment so that consumers have more power and are able to counter these sort of like lockdown measures. I
have something to show you because we're running out of time, but I thought you might be interested in this.
Technically, we have 2 minutes left.
This is, I think Kyle Wiens from iFixit. He said, Sick Codes has jailbroken a John Deere, and this is just the beginning. Turns out the entire food system is built on outdated, unpatched Linux and Windows CE hardware with LTE modems.
Yeah.
Remember Windows CE?
I don't. But what, do you?
I guess
I could guess what it is, but...
You don't even know what Windows CE is?
Windows CE, was that the tournament
compact edition? It was like installed in like Palm Pilots.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I used that. My brother had one of those.
He had a Windows Palm Pilot?
He had a Palm Pilot, yeah, with Windows on it. I was like, this is the coolest thing in the world.
I had a Windows mobile phone, which was like a long derivative, the last Windows CE, and it was the worst phone in the whole of human history. So this is very reassuring.
Palm Pilot was super cool. I played Snake on there.
Oh, nice. I did have a Palm Pilot with Palm OS. That was much better.
But the tweet is interesting because it as you said, it indicates.
It indicates that like,
once we realize this kind of stuff, it's like, it's
like learning your Honda infotainment is like Android 4.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, great. What do I do with this?
I'm dead if anyone gets access to this. But
no,
more
but at least the
importantly,
Honda's engine management and the infotainment are split off.
sure. But more importantly, okay, you might see that and you're like, oh no, I'm vulnerable. But at the same time, it's like, oh sweet, this is vulnerable. I can hack it and do what I want with it because it's old and I can figure it out. Last thing in conclusion is that Biden made this executive order. It seems like that has kind of like, and also pressure from like grassroots organizations like Louis Rossmann, obviously, has done a big push on this. And we talked about a cause that he's focusing on now more on the WAN show. So he's still focusing on that. Canada apparently has a couple right to repair bills, but like they seem to be really specific. Like there's one that's This one was talking about TPMs, and I thought they was talking about the trusted platform modules on Windows, on x86 hardware, which is like a Windows 11 requirement.
Yeah.
But this Canadian bill that I found, Bill C-272, which was passed through the second reading. I don't know exactly what that means, even of our own government. I'm not sure. But it's not talking about trusted platform modules. It's talking about technological protection measures. So that could be anything.
Oh, I'm reading one about like
Digital
circumvention of the Copyright Act for repairing.
Okay, is that a Canada thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this one is apparently talking about more broad things as well. Firmware restrictions,
Wait.
encryption. So anyways, the point is that the tides are changing. And I guess
really slowly.
Apple is not as good as Android after all. See you later.
I wouldn't say
Just
that.
Just kidding. Thanks for watching. I'm trying to end the episode, Jonathan.
And I'm trying to keep it going.
We don't have a standardized way to end TalkLinked, so this is it.
Here's what you do. You just start editing in like some music.
Yeah, they're playing.
And then the credits
my
go
own
up.
channel is playing me off.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
You can do that. That's the magic of
subscribe.
editing.
Subscribe to MAC address.
Please, and thank you.
And see you later.